Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take complex project requirements and really try to extract the essential strategy you need to know.
And today we are going deep. We're looking at the nerve center of multi-billion-dollar infrastructure contracts.
Specifically, the administrative requirements for documentation flow.
We're examining a framework E2 by LIM1 that treats every digital file, every drawing, and every piece of data not as, mere project paperwork.
No, it's the legal foundation, the future operating manual for a massive physical asset.
Exactly. When a contractor hands over a tunnel or a power plant, they aren't just transferring steel and concrete. They are transferring the information needed to operate it, to fix it, and to own it legally for the next 50 years.
And that really is the core mission for today, isn't it? To unpack this framework. It's all designed to ensure the employer gets the absolute minimum information needed to manage those assets.
It's the insurance policy for ownership.
So this whole information flow is really managed by three key bits of infrastructure, right? They have to be there from day one.
Absolutely. The first one you'll always hear about is the EDMS.
The Electronic Document Management System.
Exactly. And that's your home for, well, all the technical stuff. Think designs, construction records, those final as-built drawings.
A massive handover package.
Right. Then, separate from that, you have the CMS.
The Contract Management System. So this is more for the legal side.
Purely. It's for contractual and legal correspondence, formal notices, payment forms, official letters, minutes of meetings. It keeps the business side completely segregated from the engineering side.
Okay, and the third piece, the one tying it all together.
That's the MDR, the Master Document Register. And you really should think of the MDR as the project's heartbeat. It's this living, detailed inventory listing every single document the contractor has to produce.
Along with its status and plan delivery date.
Yes. These three systems are the absolute bedrock of compliant documentation.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics. How do the documents actually move through this defined landscape? The source material establishes a really rigorous separation.
It does. It sets up two streams, the EDMS and the CMS.
Technical versus contractual.
And that separation, it's completely non-negotiable. If it's a technical drawing, it goes through the EDMS. That's stream one.
And if it's a formal request for information or a contractual report?
That's stream two, the CMS. It's designed to prevent that total chaos where, critical design data gets buried under a pile of invoices.
But the source does acknowledge that even in this super digital environment, some things just have to be physical. What's the major exception?
It's purely about legal integrity. While all the operational and technical documents are digital.
Uploaded to the EDMS or CMS.
Right. But original wet ink copies of certain high-stakes documents must also be submitted in hard copy. We're talking specifically about guarantees and certificates.
So that physical record is there to eliminate any future ambiguity in a court of law.
That's the intent, to lock down authenticity.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, the source outlines two options, A and B, for managing the technical side of things. What's the thinking there?
It all hinges on who runs the EDMS infrastructure. Option A is the default.
Which is?
The contractor is mandated to use the employer's EDMS for all their technical documents. If the contractor has their own internal system, fine, but it has to be fully compatible.
And option B, I imagine that's less common.
It is. Option B shifts the burden. The contractor makes their own EDMS available. But, and this is a big but, they have to provide continuous access, support, and training for the employers and engineers people.
So in either case, the employer has to have ultimate control over the record environment.
That's the bottom line.
And if you don't comply, regardless of the option chosen, the compliance hammer seems pretty heavy.
Incredibly heavy. The requirements state clearly that any document not submitted through the specified EDMS or CMS is, for all intents and purposes, unofficial.
It has no compliance standing.
None. And any consequences, delays, defects, legal challenges, that's all on the contractor's risk and account. If it's not in the system, to the employer, it simply doesn't exist.
Wow. That's a powerful incentive for process discipline. Speaking of daily life on a project, we all know they run on email. How does the system handle that flood of communication without bogging everything down?
That's a really smart carve-out in the requirements. Day-to-day operational emails are not uploaded to the formal management systems.
Okay, so they don't clog up the EDMS.
Exactly. But they're not allowed to just vanish into private inboxes either. Every single operational email has to be copied CC'd to a dedicated project or contract email address.
So you still get a central repository, a parallel record stream.
A comprehensive one, yes. It keeps a record of quick communications without overburdening the formal systems. It's actually a very elegant solution.
So once the systems are chosen, the clock starts ticking on creating the rulebook, the document management plan, or DMP.
Right. And this is where the contractor has to translate the employer's high-level requirements into an actual practical operational strategy.
And this DMP it's more than just a manual, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It has to describe the contractor's organizational structure, their internal processes, the specific systems they'll use. It's so foundational that it has to be submitted and approved as a core part of the broader project execution plan, the PEP.
It sets the baseline for the entire project's information output.
It really does.
So what are the most, let's say, intensely detailed parts of this plan? Because the source goes way beyond just, how to file documents.
It gets incredibly granular. You have to look at the document delivery planning, or a DDP.
The DDP.
And this is not just some simple checklist. It has to come out of a mandatory planning workshop held within the first 4 weeks of the project.
And the output of that workshop, the DDP, it has to be linked to other things.
Actively and mathematically linked to the detailed project schedule, which is the program, and to the work breakdown structure and the product breakdown structure.
The WBS and the PBS. So for anyone not familiar, the WBS breaks the project into tasks, and the PBS breaks the final product into its physical parts.
Correct. And that's the key insight here. The documentation plan isn't some separate administrative task. It has to mirror the physical and the scheduled reality of the build.
And it's not a one-time thing.
No, it has to be updated and reissued every single month. So if the schedule slips or the design changes, the document delivery plan must change with it.
That's fascinating. It directly links the legal risk to the planning schedule. What about naming conventions? That can be a total nightmare on big projects.
A DMP has to tackle that head-on. The numbering and coding strategy must be laid out. It has to show, in detail, a cross-reference for how the contractor's internal numbering system maps to the employer's required scheme.
Including all that metadata.
Every single field. If that mapping is wrong, you risk making the whole asset unmanageable down the line because the documents won't align with the asset codes.
And looking toward the end of the project, toward handover, the plan has to deal with field changes, right? The messy stuff.
Absolutely. The handover procedure in the DMP has to detail how all site documentation is managed, and it specifically calls out the procedure for red and blue marking.
Which refers to the physical markup on site drawings where engineers record changes in the field.
Exactly. The plan has to ensure those physical markups get officially digitized and incorporated into the final as-built documentation. And it goes even further. It has to describe the software used for electronic signatures and, crucially, how you maintain integrity so those signatures can't be misused.
So, if the DMP is the rule book, the MDR, the Master Document Register, is the live scoreboard, it's the inventory, the schedule, the warning system, what's the biggest hurdle to getting that initial MDR approved?
Well, the initial MDR is required 4 weeks after the start, right alongside the PP, and it has to list every single document the contractor plans to produce.
Every single one,
Yeah.
even for work that's months or years away.
Every single one. And to guarantee that completeness, the requirements allow for listing what the source calls dummy documents records.
Dummy documents. So you're putting in a placeholder for a document that hasn't even been scoped out yet.
Precisely. It forces the contractor to think through the entire life cycle of documentation for every single physical piece of the build, even if the detailed design is nowhere near ready.
And there's a really strict rule here.
So the most stringent rule. No documentation can be issued before that initial MDR is reviewed and formally approved by the employer. This isn't just about tracking, it's about mandatory front-loaded planning.
That gives the employer huge leverage over the project timeline from the get-go.
It really does. And the employer uses that initial MDR to assign the purpose of submission for every document on that list. They decide upfront if a document is just for information or if it needs a formal, detailed for review.
And this register, it's not a static document. It's a monthly thing.
It's a living document. It gets submitted every month with the monthly progress report. Its most critical function is defining the expected delivery date of every upcoming document in the EDMS.
Why is that date so important?
Because the employer needs it to schedule their own internal review capacity. Their engineers, their technical specialists, they need to plan their workload.
Which leads directly to that huge compliance consequence we mentioned. You can't just ambush the employer with a big pile of documents.
No. This is a staggering requirement, and it's designed to stop exactly that. Documents have to be listed in the MDR at least 2 months before the contractor is allowed to submit them.
2 months.
2 months. If a contractor tries to submit something that wasn't on the MDR schedule 2 months ago, the employer has the right to just decline it. It completely shifts the leverage. It forces plan, organized delivery.
Not frantic submission near deadlines. And the final MDR.
The final MDR, which is the ultimate handover list, it only gets an accepted status once every single non-voided, non-superseded document on it is formally approved.
Okay, let's do a deep dive into what you call the currency of this system,
Yeah.
the metadata. We're talking about, what, up to 24 required line items for each document? It sounds like administrative overkill.
It might seem that way, but this level of structure is what turns a folder of raw files into a searchable, usable asset record for the next 50 years.
So what are some of the key fields?
Well, out of the 24 minimum fields, you have the structural ones. The employer's document number, the originator revision number, the WBS reference, that plan submission date we talked about, and the final categorization, the books and chapters.
And the most important one of all.
The asset code. Without a doubt, it is the universal translator between the contract, the digital drawing, and the person with a wrench on site.
It's the unique code that links the piece of paper to the physical object. The pump, the valve, the cable.
Exactly. If that code is missing or wrong, the document becomes practically worthless for long-term asset management.
And to really hammer home its importance, some of that metadata has to be physically on the document itself.
Yes. The source is very specific. Critical identifiers like the employer's document number, the asset code, the title, the as-built status, they have to be physically printed or marked on the cover sheets and the engineering drawings themselves.
So if a crew member has a physical drawing out on site, the core data is right there, linking that piece of paper back to the EDMS and the MDR.
That's the idea. Immediate visibility.
So after all the planning, tracking, and coding, the documents are finally organized into a hierarchy, especially for handover. It's clustered into 7 main books. Let's talk about that structure.
Right. The documents are first grouped into 4 big clusters, which kind of reflect the administrative functions. So you have contract management, project management, permit management, and technical documentation.
But for the actual physical handover, it gets organized into the 7 books.
Yes, the 7 official books. This provides a logical sequence for the future operator of the asset. It's their library.
So it's function versus physical output. Books 1 through 3 seem to be more about governance and planning.
Precisely. Book 1 is the legal and procedural basis. It's got the contract agreement, all the standards and codes of practice, and the official technical queries.
Book 2.
Pure project management. All your control and monitoring documents for resources, risk, quality, interface management.
And Book 3 is all about stay legal.
All about it. That's your approval documentation. So applications, permits, and crucially, the evidence that the contractor actually fulfilled all the conditions of those permits.
Then Books 4 through 7 sound like the operational core, the key to actually keeping the asset running.
They are the heart of the asset record. Book 4 is test and verification. It's the proof.
So manufacturer declarations, commissioning records.
Verification certificates, public authority inspection reports. It's the book that proves the asset was built correctly and works as intended.
And the final set of documents, the ones operators will use every day.
That's Books 5, 6, and 7. Book 5 is the design and construction documentation. That's the bulk of your technical files, the as-builts. Book 6 is user guides and manuals, your O&M operation and maintenance docs.
And finally, Book 7.
Book 7 is operational documentation. This captures everything that happened before the employer took over. Operational records, maintenance logs, error messages, any changes to setting values. And importantly, documentation for all the spare parts is also categorized here as part of the handover.
But it's not just static documents and PDFs anymore. Modern projects are full of data and media. What about those non-document deliverables?
The requirements are very specific here. Beyond the traditional documents, 2 types of data are critical. First, the asset data lists.
Okay, what are those?
The contractor has to maintain an active database using that asset coding system as the primary key. Then, every month, they have to upload an extract specifically, an MS Excel file, to the employer's EDMS.
And this extract has to link things together.
It has to explicitly link the physical equipment, its reference designation, and all the relevant documentation. It has to follow the international structure of IEC EN 62027.
So this is the master linkage file. It pulls together the tech docs and the physical asset list, all via that asset code.
It is the ultimate cross-reference, and it's updated monthly. Then you have media,
Pictures and videos.
Pictures and videos from the project have to be stored in a separate cloud-based repository. The employer must have continuous, uninterrupted access to this archive.
And it can't just be a digital shoebox full of photos.
Definitely not. The contractor has to enforce a mandatory organized folder structure. Usually it's monthly folders with subfolders for pictures and videos.
And what about the big one these days, the 3D models?
Also covered, a delivery plan for the 3D model has to be submitted. And again, the employer must have continuous, uninterrupted access to the model in a viewing mode.
So they don't need the contractor's expensive proprietary software licenses to see their own asset.
Exactly. They need to be able to interrogate that information twin at any time.
So let's circle back to the end goal here, which is getting that final approved stamp. How does the employer actually review this tsunami of highly structured information?
It follows a very rigorous three-step sequential process. Step 1 is a quality and compliance check.
So, does the document meet all the formatting, coding, and procedural rules we've been talking about?
Precisely. If it fails there, it goes no further. If it passes, it moves to step 2, which is the content review. Do the technical contents actually make sense and align with the contract?
And step 3 is the final verdict.
Step 3 is the feedback loop, which gives one of 3 very clear statuses. Accepted. Accepted with comments, which means it can proceed, but corrections are needed, or rejected with comments.
Meaning it has to go back through the whole process again.
Yes. That clarity is crucial to prevent endless review delays.
So if we just, pull back and look at the bigger picture here.
This deep dive really shows that administrative rigor on these huge contracts is not an accident. It's meticulous information engineering. All of these requirements, the systems, the DMP, the 2-month MDR lead time, the 7 books, they're all designed to do one thing.
Minimize risk.
Minimize risk, guarantee the transfer of the full operational record, and ensure a seamless managed transition from a project site into a long-term, valuable, and operable asset.
So what does all this administrative detail mean for you, the listener? We've established that the documents are the physical records, but it's the asset code and that associated metadata that are the real currency of the project.
They are.
So think about this. If that one single asset code doesn't align across 4 different systems, the MDR, the printed drawing on a cover sheet, the monthly asset data list, and the geometry in the 3D model, then the integrity of that entire information twin is compromised. The real challenge for modern asset management isn't just delivering the complex physical structure, it's maintaining the perfect digital integrity of its information shadow. What does it mean for the future of asset ownership if the information you need to run it is fragmented or inaccurate before you even turn the key? That's something to ponder until our next deep dive.
If you're interested in the templates, please visit our shop. The link is in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.